What's going on, everybody? My name is Tenebrous Infinite and welcome back to Generation Zero. For today I've got the ultimate tank farming route for you dudes so that you can get your hands on the 5 crown versions of the LMGs. One of the big things that I want to start off saying here in this video before we get into the tank farming route is that the LMGs have some of the lowest RNG of all of the weapons in the game. So you're going to have a lot of patience when trying to farm these weapons. But the payoff in the end is well worth it, as these are some of the most powerful weapons in Generation Zero, and I believe will be creating a brand new meta in the game in terms of weapon loadouts. So, with that out of the way, let's start off with the first version of tank farming, and then we'll talk about my more extended route after that. So I've got 2 methods for you dudes today for farming up tanks, and so the first method is courtesy of Zexer over on the forums, one of the fantastic moderators over there. He managed to tip me off to this reliable spawn location very early on when Alpine Unrest had released. So one of the big things that I want to say before I get into this route is that the developers don't usually leave reliable spawns in the game, just to simply make you have to work in order to get the things. So don't expect this original method to work forever, but while it's in the game, I definitely advise you guys to utilize this just as a small time save in all of this. But luckily enough, outside of that, in order to future-proof this video, I've come up with a route that covers the entire span of Himfall Island, and I've even looked into some locations that have rare spawning chances for tanks that we'll be going over at the end of this video. So first things first, let's talk about that reliable spawn location. So in order to start off this reliable spawn location, you'll want to start from Ulfstogen Slope Cabin, and you'll want to approach the relay beacon that spawns just kind of west of the cabin. And I find that this approach is one of the better approaches, but we'll talk about a secondary approach as well. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to take out the explosive canister on the back of the tank and kind of paralyze it for a moment, utilizing the relay beacon in order to kind of take out the doggos that spawn nearby it. It's a lot easier to deal with the tank after you've dealt with the doggos. And then you'll be able to use the little dilapidated building as a bit of guerrilla cover, so that way you'll be able to take out the tanks very quickly and very efficiently, minimizing the amount of damage that you'll be taking while fighting this tank. Now for farming set location machines, what you'll want to do is you'll want to QTM, or quit to menu, and then you'll be able to start up at a nearby safe house, go to the exact same location that you had just killed that machine at, and that machine will respawn in that location, which will allow you to farm the same machine over and over and over again. This time the game started me off at Hammer Baderna, so I will be able to show you how to approach this tank fight here from the kind of tree cover that you get on the hill. So again, one of the main things that you'll want to do is you'll want to focus on taking out the doggos before you actually deal with the tank. And just like with the tank, if you manage to pop one of the doggos' gas tanks close enough to the relay beacon, you'll be able to paralyze the enemies in that location. Now, when you're fighting the tank from the tree cover, you'll have less opportunities to actually shoot off the tick pod. So you'll want to kind of use this kind of ski fence in order to avoid dealing with the ticks as much as possible and kind of avoid any sort of damage over time effect that those ticks will apply to you. And then after you've dealt with the tick pod on the back of the tank, it's just simple clockwork for taking that tank down. So again, all credit goes to Zexer for finding that reliable spawn. The dude is an absolute legend, and again, thank you so much for telling me about it so that I could share it with the whole community here. So now with that reliable spawn location out of the way, let's talk about my extended route for farming tanks. And one of the things that I'd like to say before we get into this extended route is maybe it would be a good idea to kind of combine the reliable spawn location and the extended farming route together, so that way you aren't having a boring or monotonous time farming these weapons. Because as I had said, the RNG for them is very low, so you'll definitely want to break it up with a little bit of legwork and a little bit of action in different locations in different set pieces. So now let's talk about my route. So this farming route starts off very similarly to the whole reliable spawn set spawn location. So you'll want to start from Ulfstogen slope cabin, come over and take out this tank, and then move on to your next location. Of course, if this reliable spawn ever gets removed from the game, you'll just want to remove this from your tank farming route. For the next location, we are just a little bit southwest from Ulfstogen again, and what you'll be able to find over here are potentially 1 or 2 tanks down in this kind of little lumber ditch area. The first time you come to this location, you will be able to find 2 tanks here, but after you take out those 2 kind of single spawn tanks, you'll eventually be able to find just a lone tank spawning in this location. It's really nice because it's really close to that relay beacon, so when you have taken out the 2 initial tanks in this area, you'll still be able to farm technically 2 tanks at once in very close distance from each other. If you guys want to know how to take down these new Apocalypse tanks really easily, I've already made a video on how to take down the Apocalypse machines really easily, so I would advise that you check out those videos so that way you can optimize your farming and get this done really quickly. So for the next location, you're going to want to start at the Ronhala Emergency Shelter and just head a little bit north, and you'll be able to find a tank usually spawning in this kind of open plains area. Now, a big thing to make note of is that if you have any rivals that have spawned over here on Kimfall Island, sometimes they can overwrite these spawns. So when you're farming for the LMGs, I'd actually advise you to get rid of any sort of rivals that you've spawned on the island. And for the last location, it's just outside of the FOA 4 bunker. And down on this road, you will most of the time be able to find yourself a tank that spawns on this road. And this is a really great location to actually fight this tank from, because the gravity will affect the landmines that it will shoot at you, which usually means that you'll be able to avoid the landmines without having to waste any ammo actually shooting them. Alright, so with both of those methods out of the way, I thought it would be good to close off this video talking about some rare spawn locations for any of you guys that want to just include a lot of exploration and a lot of running around in with your tank farming. So I found a whole bunch of locations across this map that unreliably and rarely spawn tanks, but if you were to include these locations into your tank farming route, you would definitely be able to maximize the amount of tanks that you're going through per play session and per farming run. So let's talk about the first location here. You can sometimes rarely find a tank just south of St. Charlotte Church here. You can find it kind of wandering around the road and kind of turning off on the bend over here. You can also sometimes find a tank over on this side, moving more towards the little bunker over here, and just a little bit past Readiness Storage 030. And you can find it kind of around this crossroad section right here. Another spot where you can rarely find tanks is over just past the dock over here, and you'll be able to find him wandering kind of in this little corner area where the road starts to turn. Another spot where you can start finding tanks really early on in your adventures into Alpine Unrest is over here, just north of Marxatern. I'm probably saying that wrong, but just north of Marxatern along this road here. You can sometimes also find tanks wandering around in this hillside, especially close to N-Hit-N camping ground over here. And then, lastly, there are a couple set locations where you can find tanks. And one of those set locations is actually one of the locations that I showed off as a reliable spot for tanks. You'll be able to find 2 tanks spawned in this area just once. So you'll get one opportunity to kill 2 tanks right away and kind of roll the dice on the RNG over here. And then there's another set spawn location over at FOA 4. So there you guys go. There are all of the tank farming methods you could take. Some set spawns, some rare spawns, my personal route, and then that reliable spawning location. So you actually have tons of opportunities to farm tanks over here on Himfall Island. And I gotta say, my dudes, you really want to get your hands on these LMGs. So, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and hopefully this video was informative for you dudes. Have fun farming, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Until then, peace.